how much carbon are you responsible for? Like, you fly every day in the plane, you drive your car, you do this, you're emitting carbon, which is very dangerous to the environment, which we are trying to reduce. So how do you redeem your carbon footprint? How many flowers, how many trees do you plant? So here I'm talking about your carbon footprint. For instance, if you look at, I don't know if you can see the footprint here. This is the big toe, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. And then this carbon, these cans are burnt to show you the carbon emission. So what's your carbon footprint? That's what I'm trying to ask people here. Well, I think the first thing, let's go back to how we started. We didn't start thinking about setting up a space. We knew what we wanted to do actually, but we didn't know it was going to turn out to be what it is today. My friend, the writer who wrote Beast of No Nation, Uzodin Maiwala, when he came back from New York, he wanted to live here. So we got together and I was helping to do some of the designs and all that, but the more we did the designs, the more we thought about what to do, we felt that, look, let's actually create something that is like a boutique home where you can't find anything like it anywhere in the world. And we said to ourselves, look, whatever, I was already an environmental artist, I was already doing things from waste to art, and he said, okay, let's continue in that direction and create a home that has that character. And we said, okay, good, let's do it. And we just said to ourselves that whatever we're going to do here, outside the AC and the fridge and the TV, let them be things that we did ourselves and also get more artists involved. So we started looking out for, apart from the ones that I did myself, we also started looking out for artists that had the same inclination towards environmental sustainability. And if you've gone around this house, everything here, we are all done from waste, supposedly waste, and then we repurpose them into something more functional. And that's where our focus is. And living in this house as well has its, the good side and also, not, well, I wouldn't say the bad side, but also a more demanding side to it, because you wake up every morning, you're surrounded by this whole energy of art which inspires you, but at the same time it also weighs you down because you want to have a space that, because sometimes you get used to some works, they kind of becloud your inspiration and what you want to do. So sometimes I wake up in a place that is purely empty, but then at the same time I wake up in the morning and I find myself in this space. It's also very invigorating to know that, look, yeah, we've really done a good work, and some of the works that are not mine also gives me inspiration. So it's an interesting feeling as well to stay in this house and to keep dreaming about what we want to achieve in the future, and to also get more people inspired to key into what we're doing, our vision of using art to promote sustainability, talk about climate change, talk about waste management, talk about recycling, talk about all that will make our environment more secured. When I first started doing environmental work, it was more like an experimental exercise for me. I was exploring materials. I wouldn't actually say I knew what I was doing. It was when I started doing research, when I started reading, because I'm self-taught artist, and when I started trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do in terms of the materials I was using, what are the characteristics of those materials, what are their lifespan, for instance, and checking online and reading and asking questions, I now found out that there was actually some kind of a body of other artists that are also exploring what I was exploring, and that also gave me the encouragement to say to myself, look, just do it. Because when I was doing this at the initial stages, people didn't really understand. I myself didn't even really understand what I was doing, so I can excuse other people that didn't even understand what I was doing, that we are like, are you sure this is what you should be doing, or should you just go and do something more serious or rather more honorable? And they have all sorts of words to use, and it was very funny. But then when I started, I was always improvising. One was I wasn't having all the materials I needed to paint with or to create works with. So I found out that in many cases, when I was doing sculptures, it was just a more explorative angle for me, trying to see how I can get yellow, for instance, out of MTN card, for instance, or how I can get red out of Coca-Cola, or how I can get green from Glow. So all those things, I was just trying to weave everything together for me to improvise and create something that I can have a conversation with. And that's just how it started. And from that improvisation, I actually started feeling more comfortable with those materials, and they turned out to be not just improvised materials, but the actual material that I now started working with. So from improvisation to becoming the main body work, like saying the rejected stone becoming the cornerstone of the building. So that's how, for me, how it is, by improvising and then using those materials I used to improvise with to, make my body of works. One of the main issue, like the core element of what I do is environmental sustainability. That's what my work tries to champion. And in doing that, I believe that people can see from the work that I do, like for instance, the cement bags that I use, people can start, when people see the work that you create, most of the materials that we use don't really have a large lifespan. But what it does is that it triggers a conversation, an educational conversation between you and the material. And you begin to say to yourself, oh, so this cement bag, for instance, that I would ordinarily throw away or use it to pack something in the store and keep it there, and that I can actually use it for something more productive than just leaving it there. The leather bags that you see, that you go to a supermarket, you buy toothpaste, they put it in a leather bag. You buy chewing gum, they put it there. Those leather bags can actually be used to create more sustainable handbags or traveling bags if you weave them together. So what we are trying to do with the materials that we work with is to trigger a conversation, to make you begin to see another angle to the waste, not just to drop them in the dustbin, but to start to think about how else can I reuse these materials to create something else. And like, for instance, when I go to schools to teach kids, I teach them about the environmental issues. Some of them, they ask questions, what is recycling? What is upcycling? And you try to teach them, and you also try to make them to begin to use some of their waste, like their juice packs, their lunch packs and all that, to create something, even just for storages. They could use their lunch pack to create something, a storage for their crayons, instead of just throwing it in the dustbin. So all these things forms an opinion, or rather a mentality for some people to start being more conscious about how they relate to the environment. Because the fact is that a lot of people still think that environmental issues is very elitist. Like, it's just something that you discuss with the president, or you discuss with the minister, or you discuss with, not knowing that, look, this is something that concerns us here at the bottom of the line. Because when if you go to communities where they drink like sachet water, they throw it on the road, they don't actually know what that thing consists for them, that it's bad for the environment. But it's only through education that you get to be able to know, because some of these people is very ignorant. So you can't really blame them for being ignorant, because nobody have actually educated them to tell them that, look, what you're doing is detrimental to the environment. And that's why, for instance, last year, we come up with what we call One Environment Hybrid. One Environment Hybrid is a platform where we get environmental experts together, sit down in a round table, talk about how each industry can sustain themselves in a more organic approach. How the building industry, how the construction industry, how the agricultural industry, how everybody can actually start to think about how what they do relates to the environment. So for us as artists, we use art to promote that conversation. So we're also looking at everybody in whatever field they are, let them start thinking about how they can promote the dialogue on environmental sustainability. And for me, it's a win-win situation for everybody, because sometimes you have some scary, which is not supposed to be scary, but that's the truth. You have some scary information coming your way when they tell you that in few years to come, some of the cities around the Atlantic, around the oceans will be submerged. And the truth is that things like this could happen, and we're not paying any attention to that. So we're trying to see if we can use, through our talents and skills, to get people to start thinking otherwise on how they would have ordinarily disposed a sachet water or a plastic bottle, or things like that. For instance, even the plastic bottle I just talked to you about, it's something that I'm trying to see if, for instance, that the government can one day phase out plastic bottles. Because if you're tasting now, you buy a plastic bottle, water bottle, and in 30 seconds, you finish that water. But the plastic bottle stays there for the next 100 years. It doesn't contribute anything to the environment. You throw it on the ground, it stays there for the next 100 years before it starts to even decompose. So what's the rationale of me drinking water in 30 seconds and the container that I used for that water stays there for 100 years? So these are the things that we're hoping that people will start to change their mentality and their approaches to things, to start to think more sustainable, more creative, more organic, so that we can have a better world for the generations to come.